There was a time when laughter echoed through these places, when postcards were printed by the millions, when families waited hours in line, when neon lights burned all night, when names of places alone were enough to spark excitement. Today, many of those places are silent. Some are buried under forests, some lie underwater, some were torn down and replaced with parking lots, highways, or anonymous buildings. Others exist only in faded photographs, half-remembered stories, and the memories of people who once stood there and believed the place would last forever. This is not a story about ruins alone. It is a story about how popularity fades, how progress erases, and how even the most beloved tourist attractions can disappear completely. This is then and now. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, tourism was changing. Trains connected distant cities. Steamships crossed oceans. For the first time, ordinary people could travel not just for survival, but for pleasure. Tourist attractions were built to impress, to astonish, to overwhelm. Bigger was better. Stranger was better. More extravagant was better. Cities competed with one another, each promising the world's greatest, the largest ever built, the only one of its kind. Many of these places became legends, and many of those legends are now gone. When Pennsylvania Station opened in 1910, it was not just a train station. It was a monument. Inspired by Roman baths, Penn Station featured massive marble columns, soaring ceilings, and sunlight flooding through steel-and glass vaults. Travelers entering New York City arrived not underground, but through a cathedral of movement. For decades, Penn Station symbolized the power and confidence of America's industrial age. Millions passed through its halls, soldiers departing for war, immigrants arriving with hope, families reuniting. Now, by the 1950s, rail travel declined. Airplanes rose, cars ruled. Penn Station was no longer profitable. In 1963, despite public outrage, the original Penn Station was demolished. Today, its replacement exists mostly underground, crowded, low-ceilinged, confusing. The grandeur is gone. What remains is a reminder that even architectural masterpieces can vanish when economics outweigh memory. The destruction of Penn Station sparked the historic preservation movement in the United States, but too late to save it. In the mid-20th century, roadside America thrived. Families drove highways lined with diners, motels, and attractions built purely for fun. Lutz's Water Park was one of the earliest large-scale water parks in the United States. With hand-built slides, concrete pools, and picnic grounds, it was a summer destination for thousands. There were no digital tickets, no branding deals, just water, sun, and noise. Now, as modern theme parks expanded and safety regulations tightened, older water parks struggled to keep up. Lutz's Water Park closed quietly. Today, the land bears little sign of the laughter that once filled it, another reminder of how quickly leisure evolves and leaves the past behind. At the dawn of the 20th century, Coney Island was the playground of America, and Luna Park was its crown jewel. Opened in 1903, Luna Park glowed at night with over 250,000 electric lights, a mind-blowing sight at a time when electricity itself was still a novelty. There were fantastical towers, exotic architecture, and rides that promised thrills never before experienced. Millions visited every year. Now, in 1944, a fire swept through Luna Park, destroying much of it. Financial decline followed. The original Luna Park never recovered. Today, a modern amusement park bears the same name, but it is not the same place. The original Luna Park exists only in photographs and memories, a lost world of light and optimism. Perched above the Pacific Ocean, the Cliff House opened in 1863. It burned, was rebuilt, expanded, burned again, and rebuilt again, each time grander than before. It became one of the most famous restaurants and viewing points on the West Coast. Celebrities dined there. Travelers stood at its windows watching waves crash against the rocks below. Now, despite its long history, the Cliff House closed permanently in 2020. Though the building still stands, it no longer functions as the iconic destination it once was. A place that survived fires, earthquakes, and wars could not survive changing economics and modern tourism patterns. Then, World's Fairs were temporary cities of the future. From the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago to the 1939 New York World's Fair, these events introduced electricity, television, futuristic architecture, and cultural exchange. Visitors walked through utopian visions of tomorrow. Now, most World's Fair structures were dismantled shortly after closing. Entire cities vanished in months. Only fragments remain. A tower here, a statue there, a lake shaped by a long-forgotten pavilion. The fairs promised a future that moved on without them. For centuries, the Berlin Palace stood at the heart of the city. It symbolized Prussian power, imperial ambition, and European royalty. Tourists admired its ornate facade and historical significance. Now, severely damaged in World War II, the palace was demolished by East German authorities in 1950. In its place rose a modern socialist structure, itself later demolished after German reunification. Today, a reconstructed version of the palace exists, but it is not the original. The authentic past is gone, replaced by a replica shaped by politics and memory. Then, based on the comic strip Lil Nur, Dogpatch USA was a theme park celebrating an exaggerated rural America. Opened in 1968, it featured characters, shows, and attractions that drew tourists curious about Americana humor. Now, by the 1990s, attendance collapsed. The park closed in 1993. For years, it sat abandoned, rusting rides, empty streets, buildings slowly reclaimed by nature. Dogpatch USA became a ghost town of nostalgia. Then, early Las Vegas was built on spectacle, themed hotels designed to transport visitors to Paris, ancient Rome, or tropical islands. Hotels like the Stardust, Sands, and Desert Inn defined an era. Now, nearly all of them are gone, demolished to make way for newer, bigger, flashier resorts. In Las Vegas, disappearance is not failure, it is tradition. Not all attractions disappear by demolition. Some vanish because nature decides it is time. Earthquakes flatten cities, volcanic eruptions bury towns, rising seas swallow coastlines. Entire tourist destinations have disappeared beneath water or ash. And once gone, they do not come back. There are places that did not decline slowly. They did not fade. They were not demolished. They were drowned. Across the world, entire towns and historic tourist destinations were deliberately submerged to make way for dams, reservoirs, and hydroelectric projects. Progress demanded water. History paid the price. One of the most famous is Potosi Viejo, Venezuela. Once a bustling colonial town, it was flooded in the 1980s to create a reservoir. For decades, the church tower stood above the water like a warning. When water levels dropped years later, ruins re-emerged, ghost streets, broken homes, and memories resurfacing from beneath the lake. In Italy, Curon Venosta suffered a similar fate. Its bell tower still rises from Lake Regia, attracting tourists who come not for what exists, but for what was erased. Tourists now photograph absence. Then, Plymouth was once called the Pompeii of the, not because it was already destroyed. Before 1995, Plymouth was Montserrat's capital and main tourist hub. Cruise ships docked, hotels thrived, cafes lined the streets. Visitors came for beaches, music, and quiet Caribbean charm. Now, in 1995, the Soufriere Hills volcano awakened. Ash fell, lava flowed. Entire neighborhoods vanished under volcanic debris. Plymouth was abandoned permanently. The capital was moved. Entry is still restricted. The city remains frozen in time, buried, dangerous, unreachable. A tourist destination erased not by neglect, but by the earth itself. Then, for decades, the Catskills were known as the Borscht Belt, a resort region that defined mid-20th century American leisure. Hotels like Grossinger, the Concord, and the Neville were legendary. They hosted entertainers, comedians, musicians, and thousands of families every summer. These resorts weren't just vacation spots, they were cultural engines. Now, air travel changed everything. Florida beckoned. International vacations became affordable. One by one, the Catskills resorts closed. Today, many sit abandoned, crumbling ballrooms, empty pools, shattered windows. Nature reclaims stages where laughter once echoed. Then, Atlantic City was once America's premier seaside resort. Its boardwalk stretched for miles. Grand hotels towered above the ocean. The Miss America pageant brought national attention. Trains delivered visitors by the millions. Now, while Atlantic City still exists, much of its original charm is gone. Historic hotels were demolished. Boardwalk icons disappeared. Casinos replaced promenades. The city remains, but the attraction that made it famous no longer does. This is disappearance by transformation. Then, Pripyat was not built for tourists. It was built for workers at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. But its amusement park, schools, and public squares symbolized Soviet modernity. Now, after the 1986 nuclear disaster, Pripyat was evacuated in hours. Today, it is one of the world's most haunting tourist destinations. People visit not for joy, but for silence. The Ferris wheel never turned. The bumper cars never moved. A tourist attraction created by catastrophe. Then, Route 66 was not just a highway, it was an experience. Motels, roadside attractions, diners shaped like teapots and dinosaurs lined the road. Travelers stopped, explored, lingered. Entire towns existed solely because Route 66 passed through them. Now, interstates replaced the road. Towns emptied, attractions closed. Some places survive as nostalgia stops, but many vanished entirely, collapsed, demolished, forgotten. The road remains, but its world does not. Then, Hanyashiki, Japan's oldest amusement park, once featured attractions that defined early Tokyo entertainment. Tourists flocked to rides that mixed traditional Japanese themes with Western-style amusement. Now, much of the original park is gone, replaced by modern rides and compact redevelopment. The name survives, the past does not. Some tourist attractions disappear without ever opening. Lavasa, India. Ryugyong Hotel, North Korea. Ghost resorts across China and the Middle East. Designed to attract millions, they attracted none. Concrete skeletons stand where dreams failed. Tourism does not forgive unfinished ambition. Wars do not target tourists, but they erase destinations. Ancient marketplaces, cultural landmarks, entire historic quarters. In Syria, Yemen, Iraq, and parts of Europe during earlier wars, tourist centers were reduced to rubble. Some will be rebuilt. Some are gone forever. Tourism relies on peace. Without it, memory collapses. They disappear for many reasons. Economics, technology, environmental change, political decisions, natural disasters, shifting taste, human neglect. But beneath every reason is the same truth. Nothing built for pleasure is guaranteed permanence. Sometimes a plaque remains. sometimes a photograph, sometimes only a name in an old brochure. Tourist attractions are built to be experienced in the present, but they are remembered in fragments. What once defined generations becomes trivia. Once these places mattered deeply. People saved money to visit them. Children begged to go. Couples met there. Memories were made. Now, they exist only as reminders that popularity is temporary. That even the most crowded places can become silent. That the world does not pause for nostalgia. Tourism moves forward. And behind it, entire worlds disappear.